On this episode of ResiWeek, Becoming Parts and Smarts, CEDIA's got 60 new courses, and Thoughtful Integrations has a grand opening. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 176, Band of Pirates.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Draper.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt Disscussing for AVNation.tv, and today I'm pleased to be joined by Ian Bryant. He is the Senior Director of Technology, Application, and Innovation at CEDIA. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. It is wonderful to be back.
Thank you so much for being here. And we have Joe Whitaker. He is the President of Thoughtful Integrations. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Always happy to be on the show.
Oh, thanks so much, guys. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this right off. This is our first show after InfoComm last week. So we've got obviously a ton of coverage that you can check out on the website from InfoComm. So we're going to kick it off with a story that kind of bridges the gap a little bit. It comes to us from our residential systems, Becoming Parts and Smarts, from our good friend Henry Clifford. On this call, we all know Henry pretty well. Read through this article. When you do, you will discover that he has discovered that after 17 years, they've pretty much figured out that they can no longer compete for pre-wiring, essentially, on most commercial projects. Livewire is used to, that's Henry's company, is used to maintaining a 40-plus selling margin on most of their wiring for residential applications. But in commercial, they can't stay competitive when it's down in the 20s. So he has looked at bringing in some subcontractors, some commercial cabling contractors who are perfectly happy to cable those buildings and facilities for them at a great price that works for them and allows them to maintain the margins that they want. So Ian, I want to kick this off with you. When we start looking at using and utilizing a lot of subcontractors, whether it's programming, whether it, as it is in this case, pre-wire, any wide variety of things, design, etc. Do we hit a point where it's hard to sustain as an industry when it's literally, we have that potential of just becoming like technology general contractors, and all we're doing is subbing out to all of these different partners that come in and do everything that typically we used to do?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. When you're looked at as the go-to person for technology, and next thing you know, you're just the hub for everyone else, it can be an issue. But at the same time, I think that having those connections and being able to work on the fly with other subcontractors, it is beneficial. It's give or take. It really depends on how you manage it, I think.
Very good. Joe, when you look at this, one of the things that concerns me, and that concerned me a lot when I read through this, was I get his point. I get his point that on commercial it's hard. We talked pre-show, the three of us, that, you know, in certain markets, we can't, as residential integrators, our standard, I guess, is a little higher, or we're just used to pricing higher. So we can't compete with commercial. The kind of the change that I want to take is, if we are bringing in these subcontractors, how do we justify that to our clients? Because so often our clients are purchasing off a relationship, right? Commercial is obviously a little bit different, but in residential, a lot of times it's relationship-based buying. They're purchasing from Joe because they like Joe. So what happens when Joe shows up and brings in this random ragtag crew of, you know, band of pirates of different guys that he just hired for this one job? And yes, I'm picturing you with a little eye patch.
Well, you know, because we play in two different markets, we can treat it different and do residential and commercial. But like in Dallas, where we do have a crew that is specific for pre-wire. And that's one of those things you have to look at from the business model is your pre-wire guys don't get paid as much as your programmers, your installers. So your actual labor rates would change based on you're not paying those guys as much, and your profit margin on wire, et cetera, is different anyways. So that's how we work out the Dallas market, where that is just an entirely different animal, treated as such. Our pre-wire guys may hang a TV or may install a speaker, but they don't do the programming portion. There's different skill sets, just like direct TV guys. Those aren't our installation guys. But then you come up to the St. Louis market where we may subcontract, or we may even bid out and subcontract with the electrical contractor who is already doing the thing. And at that point, we're only making money, or we're only charging for the design. Or if it's a subcontractor that we're really in with, which we have 3 here in St. Louis, their guys wear our shirts.
Yep.
I mean, it's that preposition of it is they're rolling with our design. They have our criteria for the way we do pre-wires, or our expectations, the way the leads are, the way our runs lay. You look at what's done in CEDIA's headquarters. We do it almost exactly like that. So it's kind of like they roll with our specifications. They're just cable monkeys at that point. But because they're going with all of our design and our processes and the way we do things and our scheduling, they are representing us. That's just one of those things. But you have to look at it as you read this article specifically. Do you want, some money or no money? It's just that kind of thing. Do you just want to give it all away? Or do you want to change your model based for a criteria, a section that needs a smaller skill set, so that you can keep that money and you keep that revenue? And then those margin numbers will change because you're not sending your best guys out there.
And the company I used to run, we had install technicians that were subcontracted out, and specifically in commercial. And we would develop a really good partnership with our clients to where our guys checked in with their project managers when they showed up on site. We filled out their paperwork, we wore their shirts. And when there were questions from the client, we reported back to the sales team from that company. And so there was very little. If you do it right, there can be a very little overlap, or very little gap in the overlap, so people don't really see it as another company coming in. It's just a different branch, or something like that. Plus, you have to think about unions too in commercial space, and not very many of the residential companies have their technicians that are a part of a local union. So when you get into that commercial space, a lot of these pre-wire guys have to either be a part of a union or be able to work with other union employees. So it can get a little tricky.
Which is you're exactly correct. We have that problem in St. Louis County. In Dallas, it's still the wild, wild west. Yep. So, operationally, this article, if you really took it and looked at it on a regional specific map, it could vary big time.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from a Residential Tech Today. CEDIA is expected to offer 60 new courses at CEDIA Expo 2019 in lovely Denver, Colorado. Joe, I want to kick this off with you. If you read through the article, it goes through a bunch of the new intermediate and advanced courses that are going to be offered at CEDIA this year. Of the total courses that are going to be offered, 72 are either intermediate or advanced, 40% are business, which is fantastic, and 60% are technical. Joe, as an integrator, why is education so important to you? If it is, I'm trusting it is. I should have asked you that ahead of time. But why is education so important to you? And how do you budget both time and dollars, whether you take them at CEDIA Expo or whether you take them somewhere else? How do you do that? And before you answer, I'll give your disclaimer for you and mine and Ian's. Obviously, Ian works for CEDIA. Joe and I are both on the board, so we might be slightly jaded on this one. But I know we've had this conversation long before I was on the board, and I'm sure you've had this conversation prior to you being on the board as well, Joe. Education is important. How do you budget for it? Why is it important to you?
Well, the number one thing that makes it so important is there's no such thing as a dumb technician, only dumb business owners. Boom, there it is, mic drop. If you're not getting your guys trained, the technician is not dumb, you are. Technology changes at a pace that no other industry sees. And you have to keep those guys all the way trained up to be able to provide all these new technologies and not fail at your business. That's the thing. You are going to fail if you do not keep your guys trained. And the other thing is, I'm fine with business owners taking tech classes, but don't. Get your guys in those tech classes and you take the business classes. You look at the list, because the list of trainings is amazing, by the way. But you go back to the article we just talked about, and one of the classes with Frank White is quit messing around on labor. I mean, really, there are classes specific to what we do and now how to mold the business owner, how to do customer service and fail at it. I mean, come on. Most of us fail at customer service because that's just not something we take into account in a lot of businesses. But you've got to get your guys trained up. You've got to keep them trained, all the way down from entry level to some of the advanced stuff, and this year is going to be that year that really turns it all on its head to be able to offer classes that I could take, that I myself know that I need these 3. I should take these 3. And then a host of other ones where I'm like, I just need to get my guys a training pass and be done with it. Make sure they sign up for the ones that I know they need, and then let them pick and choose a couple other ones, because they may want to get into something that I don't know they want to get into yet. So, taking advantage of it, to the fullest, that's like an important thing this year. And then the fact that some of the teachers are Carol Campbell, Frank White, Greg Scott, Patrick Hartman,
I don't know
Alex,
if I trust that guy.
Alex Capel. I mean, just the list goes on and on. This year, the most important thing when you go to Expo, see cool stuff, whatever. Take advantage of all the trainings. Do everybody training passes. Get your guys trained up, because in the last 18 months, tech as we know it has changed so much just in the last 18.
Very true. Ian, when you look at this, when you follow this, and obviously you're on the inside track of the majority of this, the association has been really focused on revamping education. There's a lot of new stuff coming out. There's new LMS stuff coming out. The way in which the association is dealing with education has changed dramatically in the last 2 years, give or take. Why is there such a focus on it from the association to really build up and solidify that educational offering?
Well, there's lots of reasons. I think the most important one is with proper education of our members and taking everyone to the next level, we're able to try to get our organization and our let's say like our job titles, that legitimacy. Someone said to me the other day in a conversation, if someone says, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "Oh, I'm a lawyer." You know what they do generally. You may not know what they practice, but you know what they do. And someone says, "Well, I'm a AV guy," or "I'm a smart home tech." Like, what I have no idea what that means. So we want to get our industry to another level, to where the other trades, we are a trade and we're looked at it. And the best way of doing that is proper education and staying on top of the technology. We're super excited about all the new classes that we're offering this year. Not only that, we brought in the new hire track to Expo, which is, even though they're not all new classes, but the fact that you can come in with a single training pass with a brand new technician, and they can go from all week long and take tons of classes that are right up their alley. So it's really about just pushing home the fact that we all need to stay continually educated, especially in this industry.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Thoughtful Integrations had a grand opening and a See for Yourself day. If you haven't put two and two together, that would be Joe's company in the boardroom in which he's sitting in right now. Joe, you and your company had a brand new grand opening at your new showroom in Westport. There you go, just for you. it was also it coincided with the Control 4 See for Yourself Day, that national day where they have, I believe it's 150 some odd.
Right around, yeah.
Yeah, certified showrooms where you have an opportunity to go in. Control 4 did a bunch of press on it. And again, you could go into any of those certified showrooms across the globe and experience Control 4, as well as all the other, products and solutions that those companies have. So Joe, I'm going to come back and start with you on this one because, well, it was your event. It kind of makes sense. You guys recently moved, obviously, into that new location in Westport, and you went all out. You and I have talked fairly extensively over some of the things that you've been doing through that development and that new build and new brand of that new showroom. Why did you invest the money and go through all the hassles of doing not only a big grand opening, but also coinciding that with a C4 yourself event, as well as just really the effort of putting in a showroom to the scale in which you did?
Well, it's a cool showroom, but it's not huge, which is, that's the big thing is for, a lot of people are scared to do certified showrooms, no matter what the brand is, or experience centers thinking, it's going to cost $1 billion. If you're smart, it's not. Our event would have been bigger, but act of God, in our case, it was act of hockey gods. It was the day after the Stanley Cup. So St. Louis is pretty much asleep the next day. So it kind of, brought attendance down. But, for us to be able to say, we had a grand opening See for Yourself event with somewhere between 50 and 100 attendees, that's still, those are good numbers to have some kind of event like that, because usually they're a little bit smaller. But, putting all those things together and that effort in my thought was change the game. So many people have been wrong so long, that we all know the art of showrooming has become a lost art. So, rule number one, don't make it nicer than your customers' homes, because they're not going to be asking you about the tech. They're going to be saying, who did your crown molding and who did your floors and who did your paint? No. It all has to be the experience of the way the technology works within comfortable living spaces. Like we built a real living room. We built a living room, sit in the living room, play with it, live there. We're not going to high pressure sales you like like your average retail people. No, come, it's our house, hang out. Your number one thing to do with our technology is to entertain. Let's just sit down and be entertained and tell me how you like it and how you want it together. And we did a lot of invites and work with our current customer base and our manufacturers, because we had Sonos here, Control 4, some of our vendors like Pioneer Music and some others. I mean, we brought all of those in, and then bars and restaurants from our hospitality side, providing the food and showing up, and Código Tequila, and, getting everybody involved all the way down to the mayor. The mayor said, I'm only going to be able to do about 30 minutes. I've got a city council meeting. The dude stayed here for 2 hours. He pushed back the city council meeting. He's like, this is so amazing. But the thought of it is, with one of these events, and especially a C4 event, is, answer the questions that these potential clients have. And we did drum up a ton of business, especially with builders and designers. Answer their questions. Tell them, no, I'm not trying to say anything right now. Just walk around, push buttons and play with stuff and make music come on and set the alarm off. I don't care. Just go around and live in the space, because we can mimic your spaces with exactly what we did here, down to motorization and everything else. And especially the voice control and high-res audio were huge, huge hits. I mean, you bring people in who say they're interested in audio, and then you got a couple of triads and meridians in there, which are right behind me, and they just start messing with stuff, listening to Tidal and Qobuz, and they're just like, oh my God. Then they ask, how much are these and how quick can you get them to the house? But it's all about going back to the old days, when Frank White and those guys used to teach, the art of the demo is going back to, forget about just trying to put some speakers in their living room. Let them play with it. See what actually resonates within their heart, and then just go from there. Let the conversation lead into a project like we used to do back in the day. So, I mean, yes, it was a great event. We got a ton of publicity out of it. But the big thing of it was partnering with our vendors and with our current client base and with our current builders to really show off what it is we do, not what it is we sell. And that was kind of the important part of it. And what did I say before the show? I said something you told me not to forget, and I said it. And
yeah, I've forgotten what it was too, because I didn't write it.
Yeah, I didn't write it down either.
Yeah.
If I remember when Ian's talking, I'll drop it.
So Ian, you seem to be in agreement with that. What I wanted to ask you and get you to elaborate on is, as Joe kind of alluded to, for years, we've been told that showrooming is dead, that there's no real need to have a showroom. Integrators can exist with a warehouse or their bedroom or whatever, that they do not need a location, a place where people can come and experience this. To Joe's point, they've been getting away from that. We've seen more and more integrators go back to that, especially the high-end ones. They're creating experience centers. They're creating mobile experience centers, some place where they can bring somebody in, sit down and say, here, experience this. Is that truly the case? Is that truly where we're headed as we watch the retail game change? Has that affected us? Is showrooming back?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's some areas where it never really left. I mean, there's definitely some of the really high quality. If you look at like the CE Pro Top 100, I have it over here on my wall. I know some of the companies, and they've got amazing showrooms. But if I was just at Connections Conference last month, and they had the Comcast Xfinity is now doing experience center showrooms where people can come in and touch the technology and experience it. And that's what I think, we've said this word probably enough to start a drinking game, but the experience of being and sitting in front of it and relaxing, and what Joe's doing with, push buttons, try things, it gives the potential client an idea of maybe what they could have in their home and what that excites them. It also, I think, really goes to allowing everyone to know who the local professional techs are, like who the professional company is locally. People will leave an experience center like that or a showroom and go to their buddy and say, man, you've got to go check out, Joe's company down the street. That showroom is awesome. And they know what they're doing. That place is amazing. And they get the best technology. I don't think that everyone has to have a giant grand showroom, but I definitely think it pays off. And if you do it right, and again, the focus needs to be on the customer. That's what we're here to do, is to help these people either simplify their life or make it better, or give them some sort of a nice feeling when they're at home with this technology. So, yeah.
And it also rings true back with the I can show you better than I can tell you philosophy. Being able to, like, this room is, acoustically treated. It's a great room to be in. But you also have to have the flip side, because people go to big retail spaces where there's a room tuned for 2-channel, kind of like this room is. And they hear that, and then you have to tell them, well, which big retail places don't. If you take these speakers out of this room and put them in that reflective room, they're not going to sound the same. So we also have an area that's dang near untreated, so they can hear the difference in, when you do your room right and you base it for sound, it sounds as good. But you take it in a room that has no rugs and no panels and all hard surfaces, it doesn't sound the same. Yeah. To set those expectations up front and let them know environment and style plays into what your output is.
I also like to say, sorry, I think that showrooms also give the ability to show more than just your clients. There's the ability to do outreach to, say, like the builders that you work with, to come in and throw events or show them things. Here at CEDIA's new headquarters, we have an experience center, and we're doing a lot of outreach to the design build industry and the interior designers to show them what kind of technology can go into the home and how it can work. And so I think that showroom gives you that ability more than to just sell, but to then also be the again, like the local technician, the local company. So, yeah.
Good point. So I'll have to add one last thing to that point, because you just hit it on the head. We'll have Charles, who is the local president of NKBA, will be doing a lunch and learn with Control4, who already has approved CEUs for NKBA, right here in these offices in August. And we are on the list for one of CEDIA's launch program for CSIT outside of, yes, Ian was raising his hands. Of course, why wouldn't I be one of the first? I mean, come on. We believe in that education. So, but that's the other thing, is being able to not only educate your guys and your customers, but builders, designers, architects, and future incoming people into our industry. And when you do an experience center right, where they can experience all of it, other magical things happen much bigger than that single client sell.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Ian, if people want to connect with you, learn more about CEDIA, where can they do that?
You can go to cedia.net. You can contact me at ibryant@cedia.net, or social media. I'm pretty much everywhere under ibryant20.
Excellent. Thanks again for joining us. Joe, my friend, thank you again for taking the time. Congrats on the Blues win, your new showroom opening, all that good stuff. If people want to connect with you and learn more about Thoughtful Integrations.
There you go.
Where can people find that?
They can always just email me at joe@thoughtfulintegrations.com. Check out our brand new website at thoughtfulintegrations.com. They can find us on Twitter at Integrator Tweets, and they can find us on Facebook at Thoughtful Integrations.
Excellent. Thanks again, gentlemen, both of you for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matty Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all of the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.